So, Linkin Park is officially back, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. It's been an insane week, to say the least, because obviously people didn't expect this. There was an announcement, but then people realized it was an announcement for an announcement, and then that announcement became an announcement for the announcement of the announcement, so it became like a Russian doll of announcements all of a sudden. But finally, we know what it actually was that they were trying to announce. It's basically the return of the band with a new album, new tour, new singer, new drummer, new everything, and it's just basically marking a new era in the history of Linkin Park. And today we're going to cover all of that. I'm going to go some of the thoughts, some of the controversies, and just give my opinion on it, because the more I realized that this video was going to be controversial, the more stuff started coming out, and then I realized how controversial it was going to be. But yeah, let's just get into it because there's a lot to cover here. So it's important to preface this by saying that Linkin Park is my favorite band since I was 14 years old. I've grew up with them. I used to know like all of the songs. I've listened to all of the albums over and over, like back to back. It's just a band that has a lot of special meaning to me. Every single album is just amazing. So naturally, I was hoping that at some point they would come back after Chester Bennington's tragic death in 2017. I realized like that was gonna happen at some point. I just never really knew when. So I feel like people acting like this is a big surprise, just that I haven't really paid much attention to the interviews, to Mike Shinoda's like journey, like from there to here. So they cover a lot of that in an interview they released a couple days ago, and I just think it was really interesting. So first of all, let's start with the most important announcement: is the new music, because that is, I feel like, the core of everything happening here. Is the new music good? The new single, The Emptiness Machine? I feel like it is. I feel like The Emptiness Machine is just really good. It's really powerful, and it features the new vocalist, Emily Armstrong, which we're going to cover more fully later on in the video. But basically, people were really nervous about what the new singer was going to look like, how she was going to act, and we got glimpses of that in the live stream they made, basically singing all of the previous old Linkin Park songs and the new Linkin Park songs, and also how this album was going to shape up. But I think the first one is just really great. Naturally, I feel like her voice sounds much better in the single than in the actual live stream, so that is an important thing to notice. But overall, I feel like it's great. Like, she sounds fine. She sounds great. I feel like the voice carries a lot of feeling. She's very talented. I feel like they were not gonna choose somebody if she was not talented, and like spending like hours and days and weeks and months with her, they made the band realize like, hey, she's gonna be a good pick for the vocalist along Mike Shinoda. There's also a new drummer, Colin Britton, who replaced Rob, who left the band actually a couple years ago. In the interview, they mentioned that he left way before Paper Cuts was released, and it's been a couple years. So we got a new vocalist, new drummer, and the album looks really well. Like, from like the concept, the album cover, the tours, I feel like this is just marking a new era for Linkin Park. And it's important to mention that this is not just like an overnight decision. There was a lot of planning behind it. There was like in the interviews, you realize like how much thought was put into this, how they wanted to basically mark like a new beginning and not try to replace what was before, but try to tell new stories. And that's kind of like the feeling I got from it. So we're gonna go more into the negative opinions, but for people to project their own like insecurities and negative feelings, I feel like that's just more on them than the actual decisions that Linkin Park is taking as a band and Mike Shinoda. And I feel like it's just more about this new beginning. So let's take a look at the positive reception of the band. I feel like many people share my feelings that this is just like a new step in the right direction. Like, Emily Armstrong is not going to replace Chester Bennington, because that is impossible. Like, the charisma, his talent that Chester Bennington put not only into Linkin Park, but also other bands like Grey Days, was just he's probably one of the best singers and musicians who ever lived. I say that fully confidently. And honestly, I feel like it's impossible to replace Chester Bennington, so I don't know where that argument comes from. I think there has a point, for example, when she tries to sing some of the old songs. Obviously, it's like, okay, well, those were Chester's parts. I see that argument. But at the same time, I feel like her own energy, her own like style of singing is just completely different. And you can really hear that in The Emptiness Machine. It feels like a more something that Emily Armstrong is making, like putting her own signature sound into that. And that's the perception I have. I feel like that argument works to a certain extent. I don't feel like they're replacing Chester Bennington. It's just marking like this new beginning, this new style of the band. So it makes me happy to see like a lot of the positivity surrounding that. Like I said before, I recognize that argument. Also, I want to add that in the future, if they're going to continue with this new direction with the band, they should focus more on playing live the new music. For example, they're probably going to release more albums in the future, maybe like album 2, album 3, after From Zero. they should focus more on those songs and play some of like the best hits from before, for example, like Numb in the End, those kind of things. Like that's gonna be inevitable. Like it's just like people are saying that, oh, they should not play any of Chester's songs are just, I feel like it's completely ignorant, but also it works to a certain extent. So they should focus on the new songs. So I feel like as time passes, they should focus more on the new material with Emily Armstrong's like feeling into it. And the point I want to make with all this is that it is very hard no matter which way you go. Like there is not a decision that's going to make everybody happy. But what it does do is that it makes the band happy that they're going to continue with a new direction in the band. So that's something that I, as a lifelong fan, I feel like if it's the right choice for them, then I fully support it. So yeah, now let's go into some of the negative comments because there's a lot to go through. It's been a rough couple days, I guess, for Linkin Park and for Emily Armstrong and for basically the entire Linkin Park community. So let's just go straight ahead into it. So a couple things happened over the last couple of days, like people started to dig up dirt into Emily Armstrong, and there were two main things that popped up. First is that she's a member of the Church of Scientology, and the second is that she defended the convicted rapist Danny Masterson a couple of years ago. I think it was like 10 years ago that she was on court and she defended him. He was later proven to be guilty. He's now serving time in prison. But that obviously leaves a very bad taste in everybody's mouth, especially after such a big announcement for this band. I mean, this is certainly a bad look, and it was important for there to be some kind of message. I honestly, like, there's a couple of conversations that need to be had around this topic. For me, the most important part is obviously the Danny Masterson thing. It looks bad, but thankfully Armstrong did put a message about this yesterday on her Instagram page. So let's take a look at it. So she says, "Hi, I'm Emily. I'm new to so many of you, and I wanted to clear the air about something that happened a while back. Several years ago, I was asked to support someone I considered a friend at a court appearance and went to one early hearing as an observer. Soon after, I realized I shouldn't have. I always try to see the good in people, and I misjudged him. I have never spoken with him since. Unimaginable details emerged, and he was later found guilty. To say it as clearly as possible, I do not condone abuse or violence against women, and I empathize with the victims of these crimes." So she recognized that it's a bad thing that she supported Masterson before. There's obviously a lot of things to discuss with the whole Scientology issue. It's a very, very tough subject. And if you want to learn more, I'm going to recommend several sources. For example, Mike Rinder's book, Billion Years, which is really good and really shines the light into the inner life of Scientology. The documentary, Going Clear, which is basically, I feel like, the most important and clearest source on this topic. Also the podcast Fair Game by Mike Rinder and Leah Remini, which also covers a lot of the Scientology stuff. And it's a really tough subject. It's insanely scary the way this cult operates. So I feel like people like who are actually so chronically online to focus so much on this aspect don't understand actually what's going on. I've seen some comments on Instagram and YouTube saying like, address the Scientology stuff, like say some statement about the Scientology stuff. Like you realize that if she speaks out, she gets her whole life ruined. Like even like she could be trying to leave the cult for all we know. Like we know nothing about her beliefs. About the people made this argument too that, oh, you chose somebody who's against mental health. Like for example, Scientology believes that mental health is all a lie. Like they're against psychiatry and all, like a lot of different things. And I feel like that is such an insane leap in logic. For example, like, oh, your organization believes this. Like, she could not be aligned with those views for all we know. She should, like I said before, she could be actually trying to escape. Like, she could be like, oh my God, I know this is bad for me. But if she does, she can lose career opportunities. There's actually problems with the cult harassing people who leave Scientology. So there's a lot of things we just don't know. For example, I could also be completely wrong. I admit that. I feel like I could be wrong in what I'm saying. But we just don't know that. So to make those insane leaps in logic to justify the hatred for the new singer of Linkin Park because you don't want him to come back, it's just completely insane. It's chronically aligned behavior. It's people trying to cancel people just because they don't like them and using any excuse. So I'm not defending like the whole cult of Scientology. I think it's a horrible thing. I feel like it'd be better if Scientology didn't exist, but sadly we're not at that stage yet. So I could make this argument that people inside the cult are actually victims of the cult. So like I said before, I could be completely wrong, but we just don't know either way. And she cannot speak about this. So that's something that I haven't heard people talk about that. So I don't know why people just don't bring up that point that if she speaks out against Scientology, she can have her entire life ruined. The same thing happened with Sullivan King a couple of years ago, I think, like 2 years at this point, where he was exposed to also be a part of Scientology and like his family. I feel like that was kind of a weird story that quickly faded away, but it's very important to bring that up. Like people can't talk about this. It's just like really like, especially in Hollywood, and it's a different thing. For example, the things Tom Cruise does, he's just completely into it. but a lot of these people could be victims. So yeah, I just wanted to put that on the table. And if you disagree, I'd like to hear comments about this because I just haven't heard people talk about it. So yeah, I feel glad that she addressed the Masterson thing. I think that was like my main problem with her. But other than that, I feel like this whole thing is just so overblown. People try to cancel anything they don't like. I hate this cancel culture mob mentality that has arisen, and with Twitter, with Reddit, like social media in general, just allows these type of things to just flourish like fires, and it's just completely wrong. I'm so against that. I don't even know how to express this. I'll probably make a full video on cancel culture in the future, but there's also, for example, things that one can do to avoid cancel culture. In this case, is never caving to the mob. For example, if you just like go like knees on the ground, like begging, please don't cancel me, please don't cancel me, I'll do better. For example, something happened similarly with a case. There was a YouTuber named Danny Gonzalez who was canceled over having a Starbucks cup, like a freaking Starbucks cup, like for 5 seconds in one of his videos. And he got backlash for that from chronically online people. That was just, it was just so nonsensical. But instead of laughing and saying like, hey, you people are completely insane, I don't even want you as my audience, he just like caved in. He was like, please don't cancel me, please, I'll do better, I'll do better. And that's just, you can't do that. Once you do that, you automatically lose. You can never actually win with these psychopaths. And I feel like this is just something that is happening here again. Like they're like, Linkin Park is just receiving so much hatred right now, and you're just never gonna win with the online mob, is all I'm trying to say. So yeah, it's been a rough couple days. I was really excited for this. Then I started reading a lot about the topics discussed in this video. I was actually hesitant to make the video because of how controversial it is, but as a lifelong fan of Linkin Park, like I said before, it's my favorite band since forever, so I knew I had to at least say something. But yeah, it's been weird. But I'm really excited to see. I'll definitely review the album when it comes out. And yeah, I really enjoyed the band. I really liked the live stream. I think their singing was good. I think it's going to be a great new direction for the band, and I'm glad to see them back, and I'm glad to see everybody just like building new futures together with new songs, new albums. And yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on the Linkin Park situation. So if you like this video, like and share. I like to see some discussion around this topic, so if you like it, just leave a comment down below and I'll respond to it. Anyways, see you guys later. Have a great day.